Hey everybody, hey, welcome back to the 53206 cast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meg.
And Meg.
Yeah.
This is a podcast.
It is.
Meg, I keep I'm not crazy about looking at the numbers, but you can't put a new podcast episode up without seeing them.
Yeah.
And they continue.
That's great.
They're moving in a direction, and that direction would be more downloads.
And I appreciate that because I do feel like we take some time to do this podcast.
Oh, sure.
I think it's just from our listeners telling other listeners. So thank you.
Well, yeah, because I can't remember the last time I told anybody.
I told two people last week, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you have 200 podcasts," and I was like, "Yeah." Give it a listen.
It's a healthy number of episodes. I wouldn't go back and listen to all of them.
Yeah.
I don't even know which ones I would recommend. Probably whatever the newest one is. When I thought about our podcast back, I know we started in like 2020, maybe something like that.
August of 2020.
There you go.
Yeah.
I remember it. I remember thinking, okay, I kind of want the podcast to be like, kind of like the news, like what's going on.
Sure.
Lately.
Yeah.
So we probably repeat, things from time to time, and you hit a bunch of different themes. But today, Meg, I wanted to do something a little different.
Okay.
I want to try something.
Okay, I don't like change.
It's fine. It's not that different.
Okay.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Are we still talking about like social justice?
Oh yeah, probably.
Great.
So the thing I want to try what I think is like a little thought experiment.
Okay.
So I think about what life was like in 1905. That's when our house was built.
Oh.
Sometimes I sit and I think, I wonder what it was like in 1905.
I love that. Like I love thinking because our house was a one-story house.
It was a one family. It had 2 stories.
Oh, it had 2 stories.
Yeah,
okay.
It had 2 stories, but it was a single family house.
Okay.
And then in 1940 something, they
Do you know where
it.
the kitchen was in the same place as it is right now?
No,
Correct.
the kitchen was in the old kitchen spot.
Okay, it was. And that's what I was asking. Like, was it?
Oh,
it was like it hadn't been moved before that.
Oh, actually, I don't know.
Okay,
I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that it was in a different location.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes I think about talking about our kitchen.
I feel like that's a fun thing to do, to
sure.
imagine, like, because our house has changed quite a bit since we moved in. It's changed dramatically from being like rooms downstairs to being completely open.
Yeah, and I feel like I go, sometimes we go to the public market, and when we're there, I'll look at some of the pictures on the wall. And the pictures are of old-timey things, like how there maybe used to be a train somewhere or somebody riding around on a horse or something.
Yeah.
So I suppose in 1905, people were getting themselves around differently.
And there was, I feel like this is a real dumb question, but was there lights in houses?
Well, that is not a dumb question.
Thank
in
you.
fact, many of these houses in our neighborhood have buried up in the ceiling gas lanterns.
Yeah.
So our house has gas lanterns.
Wow.
And we're taking a break, or I'm taking a break to record this podcast from tiling our bathroom. And in our bathroom I buried it again.
Yeah.
It's off, but I buried it again, a spot for a gas lantern. So the house was originally piped with gas to light rooms, particularly the bathroom.
How did stuff not like blow up?
It's in a pipe. It's just like how the stove doesn't blow up.
Okay.
Or the furnace. Like those things don't just blow up.
Okay. All right.
I mean, they could, but they're not.
But don't you find it interesting that 53206 has you're 4 times more likely to have a house fire?
An electrical fire.
Fire. And our house has been standing for 100 years. It's just interesting that the gas stuff is still fine, but the newer electrical stuff, and by newer I guess 50 years old.
Yeah, older than that. Yeah, a lot of the houses I was in like the 20s and 30s that they would put electric in the house.
Okay, sorry. So we're not
talking about any of that actually.
Yeah.
So, I think about what it was like in 1905.
Yeah.
And then 40 years before that was the Civil War, 1864, 1865, and slavery was still in existence then. And when I think about racism, I think slavery is probably the
I actually have those stats. I took a screenshot of this because I was like, oh, this is so interesting. So 1619 was like when the first part of slavery started.
1619?
1619 is what it says. Yeah.
Okay.
And then slavery basically ended in 1865. So how many years was slavery going on for? So can you do that math? So 1865 minus 1619.
Well, 200 and a lot.
Fast math, Alex. Come on. You used to be a math teacher.
Many
years. Okay. And then so from 1865 to segregation was going on from 1865 to 1954.
Yeah, like government. I don't know if I say government sponsored, but like that was the norm.
Yeah.
The social norm. All right, so when I think about racism, I think about slavery as like the ultimate form of racism. Like you see a person, a human being, and you decide that human being is of so low of value that you will own that person, like you'd own a dog.
It's not a person. It has limited
No
value.
Rights. Yeah. Well, value, right? But value in autonomy, in terms of freedom, those kinds of things. That a human being wouldn't share the same type of value in those regards as a different human being, right? So I think about this sometimes, about the course or the trajectory of racism. So obviously 1865, 1864, enough people had decided that wasn't what we were going to do anymore, and then the Civil War happened, and then 246. Thanks, Meg.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
246 years is how long slavery went on in the United States of America.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, in the land, whatever, because America started in 1776.
Sure.
So,
thank you. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's all semantics, when it doesn't really. Those numbers aren't as important as possibly thinking about the trajectory of racism in the United States. So you go into the 50s, and that's when enough people decided, okay, segregation is going to end, and then you move into the 70s and the 80s and the 90s in particular. It's kind of when I think about our neighborhood, because our neighborhood. You hear a lot of the elders talk about our neighborhood as a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
As a great place to be a kid. You could ride your bike, go to the park, hang out with your friends.
Plum trees. Everybody had different fruit trees that you could go, and you could I feel like everyone on the block had a different fruit tree, and you would different months you would go and you would pick, and everyone would take advantage of that fruit tree.
Yeah.
Which sounds so wonderful.
So, progressively throughout this time, you could say, and I think you would be right to say, that there is less racism. That, after the Civil War, I'm sure many people in the South were unhappy about the situation.
Yeah.
But the overarching thought was, okay, this is wrong and we're not going to do this anymore. Then you move to the Civil Rights Movement, and the same type of thoughts are happening. It's wrong that we have segregated spaces. We should have integrated spaces.
Yeah. People should be able to vote.
Yeah, all of the things that go along with that. And then you move to 2020, and the same kind of thing. People are outraged.
Well, I think let's go back a little bit, because I think when, as a white person, I think a lot of times you would think, okay, slavery is over, and then you'd think, oh yeah, there's this whole period of segregation that I feel like as a white person, we don't think about that a lot, and we don't think that there wasn't rights. People couldn't buy houses, or people could only buy houses in certain places. People couldn't. Yep. People couldn't get bank accounts. People couldn't. There's all sorts of things that people couldn't do, and they had to fight to be able to do those things. But even after, so segregation ended. Let me check my chart in 1954, but it didn't just end. I think so. I went to a talk last week. Angela Davis was at UWM, and she talked about these institutions that were put into place. So slavery was an institution that was put into place, and slavery encompassed all the cracks and crevices, and I think it was it's eye-opening to think that these laws get put into place, but still our social norms and our the way people move throughout society, it still needs to be be disrupted because it's, you know, it's not right. And so keep going with 2020 because I feel like a lot of times I just I forget about those parts of, you know, you think about slavery ended, and then, you know, you think about, oh yeah, all those rights. Because, I mean, I feel like it's not something that our grandparents would talk about, not having rights or, you know, not having these types of things. So I feel like it's just an important thing to remember.
So 2020 happens, and then I think the shift would be maybe, you know, it's been what, almost six years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think probably 10 or 15 years from now, we'll look back and say, okay, well, that was when the collective
awakening.
Sure.
I think that's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
You always like all those buzzwordy
I
terms.
thought I just made it up, but okay. I feel like that's when people started to be aware and awake of a lot of the underlying injustices that...
Sure. In particular with police brutality, then you say, okay, well, clearly there's enough instances where we can say, yes, the police are treating people of color differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, things like, you know, people getting murdered are still happening, right? And so there's a lot of outrage and just there should be.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think when, you know, if you were alive in 1868, you would say, okay, well, slavery's over. If you were alive in 1960, whatever, you'd say, well, segregation is over. But, you know, and I don't know that this is true what I'm going to say. And that's why I think this is a thought experiment. You know, what if you were to say, you know, in 2026, racism in general is over? Like, what would then the next kind of step be? And the reason why I want to say it's a thought experiment is because, you know, I look at our neighborhood and I think I think that if you said something racist, that you would be in public. I think that today you would be consequented for that. Sort of. Let me. Okay.
I'm not going to say anything.
The president discluded.
Yeah.
But I think in general. I think
within our social circles.
Yeah, I think that you are more likely
to be either called out or to be like looked at like you're an idiot.
Yeah, and whatever the it's not a consequence like you get punched. Like it's a consequence like, okay, come on, man.
We're better
2026.
Than
we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that it's over. I think racism will probably always exist because people gravitate towards people that look like them, think like them, act like them, and then, you know, there's people congregate in those ways, and there's always an us and there's always a them, which is unfortunate. And maybe it won't be like that someday. But let's say, like, hypothetically, that we've sort of gotten, or we're getting very close to the point. You know, lots of people understand that they have privilege. Lots of people understand that you have to be very thoughtful about some of the prejudices or biases that you might have.
Yeah.
You know, those are things that are you were taking the class to become a master gardener.
Yeah.
And there was a whole thing about bias in the class to become a master gardener, right?
Yeah.
And while I do think that might be a bit of a stretch because it's a gardening class. It's not how to interact with people class. But
I appreciate
right.
that even to be a master gardener, you have to know that, you know, you should be letting anybody, even if they're disabled, into your garden space. Like, duh. But like, I think it's a good thing.
I think that you are more likely than ever today to hear someone to talk about their own privilege than you ever have been.
Yeah.
I don't think that somebody was even really, in 1997, I don't think that people were talking about their privilege. I was like 14, but nobody was talking about it.
You were definitely not talking about a 14-year-old boy.
I was probably trying to watch MTV or something. Or
learn how to skateboard. I don't know what you're doing.
But, so, I really appreciate that you brought up those other examples, because even when those, and again, this is a hypothetical. I'm not trying to say that there aren't instances of racism all over the place.
You like to play devil's advocate. And I feel like you like to play devil's advocate, especially with like our kids. Like, well, are you ever going to learn that, are you ever going to learn to ride in an Uber? And maybe you should learn
Yes,
to
we are
ride.
trying to convince my 15-year-old that, when she bitches and moans about not having a ride somewhere, that there is Uber is an option, and that she can sign up for a teen Uber account. And she can get a ride anytime she wants.
Anytime.
Perfectly safe.
Yep.
But
she's really against it.
Yeah, she's really against it. But if you tell her, hey, do you think that you're going to be 28 years old and never have taken an Uber? She'll say no. And then you say, well, what if you're 27? And then you backtrack it all the way down to 15. And then it's like, okay, I'll just take an Uber. Anyways, where I was going with that was if, let's say hypothetically that as a society we've shifted our collective understanding. And maybe shifted our morality in that direction.
And let me just pivot just 1 second, because I feel like people are on a bell curve, and I think we talk about this a lot. Like, people are on this bell curve, and a lot of people who are listening to this are on one end of the bell curve, and there's still some people on the other end of the bell curve. But that doesn't mean that I think like what you're saying is the majority of our culture, or more than half, are kind of over the bell curve of. There's privilege, there's, Black Lives Matter, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure that some people have a racist uncle.
Yeah.
But racist uncles are getting older and older.
Yeah.
And they will die someday. And it's less likely, I believe, that their children will become racist uncles.
Or as racist, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll tame down their racism a little bit.
So, again, this is just a little bit of a thought experiment. Okay, so then what happens next? Because, I can't tell the difference from the summer of 2020 going into the summer of 2026, or the summer of 2019. I can't look around the neighborhood and say that anything has changed or that anything is different. The streetlights work now,
some of them.
But I can't tell that there is a difference.
Yeah.
And just like, I'm sure that any of these other larger, which I fully admit are larger checkpoints, and attempts to diminish segregation is very different than summer of 2020.
Yeah.
But there are all of these. It's not like you wave a magic wand and then this is all better.
And I
but
think
some of these things happen, and then okay, so what comes next?
Yeah.
What's after that?
And I think people thought I would imagine people thought, okay, we're gonna wave this magic wand, slavery's over. Well, that didn't actually do that. I mean, it did a lot for people, but it didn't actually give them a lot of stability, and
it was very unlikely for that person to go get a job,
succeed in life, because they had no
at the same
or
it didn't. It wasn't like it was a necessary step, but it didn't fix.
Yes.
And I think that's probably where I'm going with this, is that when I think about slavery or racism in general, like it has. Remember long COVID?
Just like COVID? What
remember
do you mean?
COVID-19? Remember that?
I do remember COVID-19. What do you mean long COVID?
Long COVID. I feel like I would hear people
had longer versions of
and it had like residual effects.
Yeah, people got migraines or
I don't know
stuff
like
that.
But
I knew one lady that got a lot of migraines, and I got nervous
because of the long COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it's more, and I think that when I think about the middle of the 1800s, the middle of the 1900s, and then I think about what the middle of the 2000s would be like. I tend to think that there are still, just even if you were to say, and this is where the hypothetical again, because I'm not saying that racism is over, but what I am saying is, if it was over, that hasn't fixed all of the problems.
Okay.
And so when I'm I'm usually trying to do this on the podcast. I'm trying to help people grapple with that versus telling them to not be racist.
Sure.
Right? Because I think enough people are not. And in fact, most of the people that I interact with, like they're not saying or doing anything that makes me think that they are racist. You know, our kids go to a pretty diverse school, and our kids are friends with all sorts of different kinds of kids. And, you know, whatever, like it's very normal. You know, they're growing up and not really thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that still doesn't fix all of the long-term effects of racism. And in fact, it's almost like we've been going for, you could do your little calculator math here, 2026 minus 1864 or 1607, 19, whatever the first year you said was, 16 something.
1619.
1619. You know, so we're still we're like 400 years trying to figure out how to right that wrong that took place all the way back then. Yeah. And we still haven't really got it figured out yet. And I know that to be true because when I look around our neighborhood and it's 99% African American and it's the poorest zip code in the state, and I see I see all of the things that we talk about all the time on the podcast, living conditions, educational opportunities, work opportunities. You talk about like incarceration, public health, all of those types of things. Yeah. Like we still haven't figured it all out yet. And in fact, we still have a ways to go. And, you know, I would always want to caution a listener to, you know, to be excited about where things are. Right. But then also realize, okay, we got some work still to do.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, as a white person, like we have been given all the privileges since, since 1619, we've been able to do whatever we want, you know, gain all of the wealth, buy houses, all of that stuff. And whereas black people haven't. And so they're obviously starting from a way farther back. And so
generationally,
how do we leapfrog them a little bit, I think would be my question.
Yeah. I don't have a great answer or solution, but I think when we're thinking about it, you know, I think whatever the next step is, because the end goal, I don't think, is to abolish racism. Like, I think that's a necessary step, but I think the end goal is, you know, to have there be no demographic marker in any of the data that we pull, income, how long you live, those kinds of like the big things that really matter. You know, how much you can earn in a year. You know, those all of that. You know, all that kind of stuff, and then just general quality of life. I think that the end goal would be, okay, we want those things to be not skewed in one direction or another based on race, right? Yeah. Like I think that would be the end. That would be the end goal.
And concentrated all in one area.
Yeah.
That's not good.
And so I think, you know, the next phase of whatever the progression is, you know, I think it will require, you know, some individual action, you know, probably on some smaller scales, a wide variety of smaller scale initiatives, which is one of the reasons why, you know, I don't mind spending a lot of time in the summer on We Got This, right? Because I think, you know, you and I are just volunteers, you know, don't make any money on it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort.
We get a lot of wonderful produce from it, though. I will say I get paid in cucumbers.
Yeah, but you could grow the cucumbers in your yard, right?
I feel like cucumbers don't grow that well in my yard, so I don't know what's going on with that. I need to figure it out this year.
All right, well, you would do anything for cucumbers, I guess. So
apparently.
But the reason why I don't really think twice about doing that is because I have a very clear understanding that a program like that will help people leapfrog ahead. Yeah. In particular, I think that the ages that you can make the biggest difference are the ones that are leading up into adulthood and, you know, the first couple of years of adulthood. But we focus on, you know, up until you're about to you're 18. Yeah. But we do that again because that to me, at least right now in what I can control in my sphere of influence, that's a good use of time to help move the needle a little bit. And I think the more things that are designed to do that exist, I think that we will see progress being made.
I would agree. Yeah, I feel like that leads into a plug, which
you got a plug.
If you want to be involved with We Got This summer, love to have more volunteers, more lunch people. Always looking for people. So you can find out more at wegotthis.mke.com.
All right. Well, Meg, it's time to go.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.